The first real sun of March lay over Boston and turned the old snow on Beacon Street into slush. Beacon Street Cafe glowed at the corner, its front window fogged at the edges. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and sugar. The espresso machine hissed, cups clicked, voices layered over one another. At a small table by the glass, Ethan Cole and his daughter sat across from each other. A third chair waited at the edge of the table, pushed in empty. Ethan had his sleeves rolled, and a cheap pen tucked behind one ear. A half-finished crossword lay between his mug and his phone. He wrapped both hands around his black coffee, letting the heat soak into his fingers. Across from him, 6-year-old Mia swung her legs so her sneakers tapped the rung of her chair. A chocolate chip muffin sat on a napkin in front of her, already missing its top. Chocolate streaked one corner of her mouth. "So, then guess what Mr. Turner did," she said. Crumbs scattered when she talked. "He tried to pick up Nibbles, and Nibbles just jumped right out of his hands." "The class hamster is named Nibbles," Ethan said. "Of course it is." "Dad, you are not listening." She stretched his name into a complaint. "He jumped, and then he ran, and he went under the bookshelf like Zoom." She slashed the air with one hand. Mrs. Chen screamed louder than the fire alarm. Ethan smiled into his cup and nodded. The third chair sat at a slight angle, its back to the aisle. A pale ring on the wood marked where a cup had once lived. The chair had stayed there unused for a long time. The bell above the door chimed. Cold air slipped across the floor and brushed Ethan's ankles. He glanced up. A young woman stepped in on a crutch and a metal leg. For a moment, all he saw was the flash of light along the titanium. Then he took in the rest. Faded jeans, oversized gray sweatshirt, canvas backpack hanging off one shoulder, hair the color of dark honey dragged into a crooked ponytail. She paused just inside the doorway. Her gaze moved along the rows of tables, counting chairs, searching for space that did not exist. The cafe was full. Every spot at the long communal table had a laptop and a pair of headphones. A couple in the far corner shared a plate and tilted their heads toward one another. An older man in a tweed jacket held a newspaper so wide it nearly covered his whole table. She hitched the backpack higher and started forward. She moved with care, a rhythm she had clearly learned. Step soft, tap of the crutch, another step. People pulled their chairs in just enough for her to pass. Mia had both hands spread now, showing the distance Nibbles had flown. Ethan watched them blur in the corner of his eye. His attention had slipped. So, he lands on Lily's shoe, and she shrieks, and then Jacob starts yelling, and Mr. Turner drops his coffee, Mia said. And then he says a bad word, but he thinks nobody heard it. "Did you tell on him?" Ethan asked, his eyes on the girl with the crutch, for the bad word. "Dad, that was 5 minutes ago," Mia said. "Now I am at the part where he goes under the radiator." The girl stopped at the couple's table. Ethan could not hear her over the steam wand, but he saw her shoulders draw in as she spoke, saw the small apologetic lift of her hand. The woman shook her head without letting go of her coffee cup. The girl nodded once and moved on. At the foretop with the newspaper man, she tried again. A small tilt of her chin, fingers resting on the back of an empty chair. The man's eyes flicked up, took her in, then dropped back to the print. His reply was one quick sentence and a short wave of his hand. She turned away a little too fast. The crutch slipped for a heartbeat before she caught herself. No one reached out. Heat crept up the back of Ethan's neck. He watched her stand in the narrow aisle, caught between tables and bodies. She drew a breath, held it, let it go slowly. Her hand tightened on the handle of the crutch until her knuckles went pale. Seeing the refusals stack up felt less like preference and more like a line of tiny locked doors. "Dad," Mia said sharply, "are you even here?" He dragged his gaze back to her. "Of course I am. The hamster went under the radiator." "That was like 3 disasters ago," she said, squinting at him. "Sounds like a rough day for Mrs. Chen," he said. The sound of metal gently touching wood cut through the low roar of the room. The girl had stopped in the center of the cafe. From where Ethan sat, he could see the set of her shoulders and the faint tremor in her arm. Her jaw was tight. There was a sheen in her eyes that did not belong to the light from the window. Her gaze made one more slow circle of the room, taking in all the filled chairs, all the turned backs. For a moment, she looked like someone about to give up. Her eyes found his. They were a dark brown, deeper than he expected. There was something raw there, something like hope, pressed thin against a much heavier layer of exhaustion. She blinked, dropped her gaze, and then adjusted her grip on the crutch and walked toward their window table. Mia fell quiet as the girl drew near. Ethan could feel his daughter watching the metal leg, listening to the small, steady rhythm of step and tap on the floorboards. The girl stopped beside the empty chair. Up close, Ethan could see faint freckles across her nose and a small scar near her left eyebrow. The cuff of her sweatshirt hung too long over the heel of her hand. "Hi," she said, her voice low but steady. "Hi," she said, her voice low but steady. "I am so sorry to bother you. Would you mind if I shared this table with you? There are no other seats and I really need to be here today." The words came out careful, as if she had rehearsed them in her head and was afraid they might fall apart on the way out. Ethan pushed his chair back before she could take the offer back. "Sure, please, sit." He stepped around the table and pulled the empty chair out for her. "I am Ethan. This is Mia." Mia sat up straighter, studying the girl like a new animal at the zoo, curious but not unkind. The girl smiled, quick and unsure. Up close, Ethan could see that her eyes were rimmed faintly pink, as if she had not slept well or had already cried once today. "Thank you," she said. "I am Riley." She lowered herself onto the chair in a practiced motion, guiding the metal leg into place. The crutch folded and leaned against the wall, bistru. For a moment, she just held the edge of the table and breathed like sitting down had required more effort than she wanted anyone to know. "You are welcome," Ethan said. He sat again and wrapped his hands around his mug. The space across from him, that had felt like a blank spot all winter, was no longer empty. Mia leaned toward Riley, elbows on the table. "We come here every Saturday," Maya announced. "Dad says it is a tradition. That means we have to do it forever and ever until the world explodes." "Mia," Ethan said. She shrugged. "That is what you said about voting." Riley let out a small laugh that seemed to surprise her. The sound loosened something in her shoulders. "A Saturday tradition sounds pretty nice," she said. "I would not mind one of those." A server in a red apron stepped up to their table, pad in hand. "Can I get you something?" she asked Riley. Riley glanced at the chalkboard menu, though Ethan suspected she had already memorized it while she was standing in the middle of the room. "Just a vanilla latte," she said. "And that cinnamon roll, please. The one with way too much icing." "Coming right up." When the server left, Mia pointed at Riley's folded crutch. "Is that heavy?" she asked. "I tried my friend Ava's once when she broke her leg and it was like carrying a tree." "Mia," Ethan said again but gently. "It is okay," Riley said. She tapped the crutch with 2 fingers. "This one is lighter than it looks. The leg is heavier. The leg is the overachiever." Mia giggled. "Do you race people?" Mia asked. "Because you look like you could race people." "Sometimes I race impatient elevators," Riley said, "and I always lose." The server brought the latte and set it down in front of Riley. Steam curled up in a lazy twist. The cinnamon roll arrived on a warm plate, icing shining in white swirls. Riley wrapped her fingers around the mug. Her hands were cold. She did not pick it up right away, just let the heat soak into her skin. "So," Mia said, "if this is your first time at our table, you have to tell us your favorite animal. That is the rule." "I did not know we had that rule," Ethan said. "We do now," Mia said. Riley considered this very seriously. "Favorite animal," she repeated. "Living or extinct?" "Extinct is allowed," Mia said, impressed. "Then giant tortoise," Riley said. "They always look like they have seen everything, and they are not very impressed by any of it." Mia nodded, accepting this answer. "I like otters," she said. "They hold hands when they sleep so they do not float away." Ethan watched Riley's face when Mia said that. Something flickered behind her eyes, a quick shadow. He took a sip of his coffee and tried to decide how much space to give her. She had said she needed to be here. She had not given any reason. Maybe it was enough just to sit and talk about tortoises and otters and runaway hamsters. "You did not tell us your favorite animal," Mia said to Ethan. "Teachers do not get favorite animals," Ethan said. "It is in the contract." "That is fake," Mia said. "You liked the penguin at the aquarium." "He was judgmental," Ethan said. "It felt right." Riley smiled into her latte. They talked like that for a while, the kind of light story that floated over the surface of things. Mia went back to Nibbles the hamster and did a full reenactment of his escape, sound effects included. Riley listened as if there was nothing more important in the room than a 6-year-old explaining hamster chaos. She asked questions. What did Mia like about first grade? Which teacher had the best stickers? Which playground slide was the fastest? Every time Mia answered, Riley seemed to tuck away some tiny piece of information, as if it mattered. The room hummed around them, milk steamed, someone dropped a spoon in the sink. A barista laughed behind the counter at something on her phone. After maybe 15 minutes, when half of the cinnamon roll was gone, and the latte had cooled just enough to drink without burning her tongue, Riley set her cup down with care. The ceramic clink was soft and final. Her fingers stayed curled around the handle. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. Sure, Ethan said. Mia nodded, mouth busy with the last of her muffin top. Riley looked from one of them to the other. The light from the window painted a thin line along her cheekbone. Up close, Ethan could see tiny gold flecks in her eyes. The reason I needed to be here today, she said, is that it is my birthday. She tried to say it lightly, as if that was nothing. Her voice thinned a little at the end of the sentence. Your birthday, Mia said. Her chair screeched an inch across the floor. Today is your birthday and you did not tell us right away. Riley lifted one shoulder in a small shrug. Kind of slipped my mind, she said. How old are you? Mia asked. Mia, Ethan said, but Riley answered anyway. 23, she said. Mia slapped both hands on the table. We have to fix this, she said. Dad, we have to fix this. Fix what? Ethan asked, though he already knew. Nobody should sit at our table on their birthday and not have a song. Mia, I do not think she came here for a show, Ethan said. It is not a show, Mia said. It is a requirement. She pushed her chair back, climbed up so she was kneeling, placed both hands on the table, as if she were about to make an important announcement in a movie. Without checking if anyone else was listening, she started. Happy birthday to you, she sang. Her voice was high and a little off-key. It did not matter. She put her whole chest into it. Ethan felt people at nearby tables turn. Happy birthday to you. He joined in because once Mia started, there was no real choice. Happy birthday, dear Riley. At the next table, a woman with a laptop closed the lid and smiled, adding her voice to the last line. An older man near the counter joined in too, his baritone a low rumble under Mia's thin soprano. Happy birthday to you. The final note wobbled, then landed. A few people clapped under their breath. Someone whistled softly. Riley sat very still. Her eyes were wide, her mouth open in a small, surprised laugh that did not quite form. Slowly her hand came up to her cheek. Her fingers came away wet. The server in the red apron appeared again, this time with a small chocolate cupcake on a plate. A single white candle stuck out of the center, already lit. We had one left, she said. Seemed like the right table for it. Mia gasped. Make a wish, she said. You have to make a wish. Riley stared at the flame. It was small, not much bigger than the tip of her thumb, but the light threw a tiny circle on the surface of the icing. The wax began to melt down one side, forming a new path. Her shoulders rose as she took a breath. For a second, Ethan could not look away from her face. Everything in it had gone soft and undefended. The look of someone caught between wanting something and being afraid to say it out loud, even inside their own head. Riley lowered her eyes and mouthed something silent that he did not catch. Then she blew. The flame vanished. A thin wisp of smoke twisted up and disappeared into the air, carrying whatever she had asked for with it. The little cluster of people around them clapped again, then went back to their conversations. The cafe noise poured in over the moment like water over a stone. Riley laughed into sound broken at the edges. Thank you, she said. She brushed at her cheeks with the heel of her hand and gave up when more tears slipped free. That was the nicest thing anyone has done for me on my birthday in a very long time. Everyone needs a birthday song, Mia said. She peeled the paper from the cupcake with care. That is a rule too. Ethan caught Riley's eye over the flicker of the candle smoke. There was gratitude there, and something heavier that had nothing to do with sugar or frosting. He picked up his coffee. I am glad you sat with us, he said. Riley nodded. She looked around the cafe as if fixing the scene in her memory. The crowded tables, the barista stacking cups, the window with the old snow melting in streaks outside. I almost did not come in, she said quietly. I almost turned around when I saw how full it was. What made you stay? Ethan asked. She glanced back at the empty space in front of her, the place where the candle had been, then at the chair she was sitting in. I guess I wanted to see if there was still a place for me, she said. Her fingers traced the rim of the plate, smearing a tiny streak of chocolate. There is a reason this cafe matters, she added after a moment, her voice softer. A reason I needed to be here today of all days. She did not look up when she said it, but Ethan felt the weight of the words settle on the table between them, waiting. Mia chewed the last bite of her muffin slower now, watching Riley with the sharp attention kids save for moments when adults went quiet. What reason? Mia asked. Mia, Ethan said, but he kept his eyes on Riley too. Riley turned her cup once in its saucer. The latte had left a pale ring. Her thumb traced it as if she could smooth it out. When I was little, she said, my family had a Saturday tradition too. She glanced around the cafe, taking in the brick wall, the row of mismatched chairs, the big window with its fogged corners. It was not here, she said. It was in Worcester, a place called Maple Street Diner. Old linoleum, burnt coffee, the best pancakes in the state if you ask my dad. What was his name? Mia asked. Mark, Riley said. He was a firefighter. He used to come in wearing his work jacket and everyone would clap when he walked through the door. He hated it. She smiled a little at the memory, the kind of smile that hurt on its way out. My mom was a nurse, she went on. Night shift in the emergency room. She would come straight from work, sometimes still in her scrubs. She would steal bites from everyone's plates and pretend she did not. Mia leaned her chin on her hand. Did you have a hamster? She asked. No hamster, Riley said. We had Abby. Is Abby a dog? Mia asked. Riley laughed once quietly. Abby is my little sister, she said. She is. She was 14. She wanted to be a vet. She tried to rescue every animal that breathed near our street. Stray cats, injured pigeons, one time a raccoon with anger issues. The cinnamon roll on her plate sat untouched now, the icing drying at the edges. Every Saturday, Riley said, we sat at the same booth by the window. My dad would make the same bad joke about the specials. My mom would say the coffee tasted like ash. Abby would draw little comics on the napkins. And for a few hours it felt like life was simple. Schoolwork, pancakes. That was it. She stopped. The noise of the cafe moved around them, a kind of soft cover. Ethan could picture it. A smaller town. A booth with cracked red vinyl. A family lined up on one side of the table, light pouring through glass. He had his own stack of weekend rituals. He knew the comfort of repetition and the hole it left when it was gone. What happened? Mia asked. Her voice had dropped, as if she felt she should whisper, even though no one had told her to. Riley looked down at her hands. The skin along her knuckles was faintly shiny, as if it had healed from some long-gone scrape. There was a house, she said, 3 floors, old pipes. The landlord kept saying he would fix them. Her eyes focused somewhere beyond the table. It was January, cold enough that the windows froze on the inside. I remember because I drew little faces in the frost on the glass in my room. Abby told me they looked creepy. She let out a breath that sounded like it had been held for a very long time. I went to bed with my headphones in, she said. Abby was still awake, reading with a flashlight under her covers. My parents were already out. My mom had an early shift. My dad was on call. The chatter of the cafe faded in Ethan's ears. He heard the hiss of the espresso machine, but it sounded distant like steam through a wall. There was a smell first, Riley said. Under the laundry soap, under the leftover pizza. Something sharp, like the gas stove when it does not catch right away, only worse. I remember thinking I would tell my dad in the morning, so he could yell at the landlord again. Her fingers tightened around the cup. I did not make it to morning, she said. Mia had gone absolutely still. Her muffin wrapper lay crumpled in her fist. There was a sound, Riley said. Loud for a second, and then nothing, like the air got punched. She lifted her hand and brought it down an inch above the table, stopping before she hit it. The floor moved, she said. The ceiling came down. I did not feel pain at first, just heavy, like something was sitting on my chest. Then there was dust. In my mouth, in my eyes. I tried to call for Abby, but it was like shouting into a pillow. She blinked as if clearing grit from her lashes. There were voices somewhere, she said. People outside, I think. Someone yelling for quiet, then for Mark, then for medics. It felt very far away. I remember thinking that my dad would be mad if he knew I had gone to bed with my headphones on. Her throat worked. She picked at a line in the paper wrapper under the cinnamon roll. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital in Boston, she said. The doctor told me they had to pull me out from under a stairwell, that I had been pinned by a beam, that they were amazed I was alive. She swallowed. They told me I was lucky. They told me that a lot. Lucky to be alive. Lucky it had not been worse. She shifted slightly. The metal leg bumped to the underside of the table with a dull tap. They had to take the leg, she said simply. Too much damage. They tried, but it was not enough. I went to sleep with 2 legs and woke up with 1. Mia's eyes went to the metal limb under the table, then back to Riley's face. What about your mom? Mia asked very softly. And your dad, and Abby. The question hung there, obvious and still hard to say out loud. Riley looked at her. Her eyes were wet again, but she did not look away. They did not wake up, she said. The floor gave out under them. The fire went through the house. The landlord had been warned about the old boiler for months. He kept saying next week, next paycheck, next month. Her jaw tightened on the last words. By the time the firefighters got there, the staircase was gone. They found my parents near the kitchen. Abby was in the hallway. They said it was quick. I tried to believe them. The world inside the cafe narrowed to their table, and the breath of the 3 people sitting at it. Ethan felt pressure in his chest, a mix of anger at a landlord he would never meet, and a helpless ache at the line of quiet sorrow in Riley's shoulders. Mia slid off her chair without warning. Her sneakers squeaked on the floor. She walked around the table and stopped beside Riley. For a second, she just stood there, close enough that Riley could see the uneven part in her hair, the tiny smear of chocolate at the corner of her mouth. Then Mia wrapped both arms around Riley's middle and leaned in. "I am really sorry," Mia said, her voice muffled in Riley's sweatshirt. "I am really sorry they died." Riley's hand hovered in the air, then settled carefully on the back of Mia's head. "Me too," she said. Mia squeezed tighter. "But you are not by yourself right now," Mia said, "because you are at our table." The words were simple and blunt, as only a child could make them. Riley let out a shaky breath. Her other hand came up to cover her mouth. Her shoulders started to shake. She did not make a lot of noise, but tears ran over her fingers. Ethan stood slowly and came to stand on the other side of her. He did not reach for her, not at first. He just stood close enough that if she leaned, he would be there. "It is okay," he said quietly. "You do not have to hold it together here." She leaned, not much, just enough that her shoulder brushed his chest, enough that he could feel the tremor running through her. They stayed that way for a while, 3 bodies in a small huddle beside a table in a crowded cafe, while the rest of the room kept moving around them. Orders were called, doors opened and closed. Somewhere a child laughed at something on a tablet. When Riley finally pulled back, she wiped her face with a napkin, then another. Her nose was pink now. She laughed a little, the sound thin but real. "I am so sorry," she said. "I did not mean to fall apart on your Saturday." "You did not fall apart," Ethan said. "You told the truth." Mia climbed back onto her chair and tugged her braid over one shoulder, as if bracing for the rest of the day. Riley glanced at the window. Outside, the light had shifted a little. People walked by in coats, hoods down, now that the sun had some strength. "After the hospital," she said, "I moved in with my aunt in Providence. She is kind. She painted the walls of the guest room my favorite color and pretends not to see when I cannot sleep." She cleared her throat. "Today is the first time I have come back to a cafe on a Saturday since it happened," she said. "I have walked by this place a dozen times. I kept thinking it looked close enough to Maple Street. Big front window, old wood tables, people who look like they have stories." She looked at Ethan, then at Mia. "I thought if I sat in a place that felt a little like home used to feel, maybe I could remember the good parts without it hurting quite so much. Or at least find out if that was possible." Ethan followed her gaze to the window. The reflection of the 3 of them sat there in the glass, faint but present. "I am glad you chose here," he said. Riley let out a small breath. "So am I," she said. The server appeared again with a fresh pot of coffee. She topped off Ethan's mug without asking, and refilled Riley's cup with hot water so she could warm her latte. "You folks doing okay?" the server asked. "We are," Ethan said. "Thank you." When the server moved away, he glanced at Mia. She was tracing patterns in the condensation on her glass with one finger. "Mia," he said, "remember the playground by the common?" Her eyes lit a little. "The one with the blue slides." "That one," he said. He looked back at Riley. "We usually stop there after we come here. Walk a bit, let Mia run off the sugar before we go home." Mia bounced once in her seat. "The bench by the swings is the best bench," she said. "You can see everything from there." Riley looked down at her leg, then at the crutch against the wall, then back at them. "I am not very good at running," she said. "You do not have to run," Ethan said. "You can just sit. The bench takes everyone." He had not planned to say it like that. The words were out before he could edit them. Riley studied his face as if checking for any hint of pity. She did not seem to find it. She glanced at the little circle of melted wax on the cupcake plate, at Mia's hopeful expression, at the emptying cafe that did not feel quite as sharp around the edges as it had when she walked in. "Okay," she said. "One bench, no running, deal." Mia grinned and slid off her chair again, already grabbing her coat from the back. Ethan reached for his own jacket, and on instinct moved to pick up Riley's folded crutch for her. She took it before he could. "I have got it," she said. "I know," he said. "I am still allowed to walk next to you, though." Her mouth curved. She nodded once and stood. They made their way toward the door, together past the other tables, and the counter, and the bell that chimed again as they stepped out into the bright, cold air. The air outside hit them with a clean, cold brightness. The sky was a hard blue. The last piles of snow along the curb were gray and pitted. Mia slipped her hand into Riley's as if she had always done it. Riley stiffened for half a step, then adjusted the crutch tucked under her other arm. Ethan walked on Riley's other side, close enough that he could catch her if the sidewalk betrayed her far enough that it did not feel like hovering. They crossed toward the park at the end of the block. Bare trees lifted their branches over the path. The grass was still winter flat, more brown than green, but the playground ahead was busy. Bright plastic slides and metal swings glinted in the sun. "That one," Mia said, pointing at the swings. "That is the best bench." The bench sat a few feet back from the swings, facing them at an angle. The paint had peeled along the slats. Someone had carved a heart into one armrest a long time ago. Riley sank onto one end of it with a small sigh. She set the crutch down beside her, leaned it against the metal. Ethan sat at the other end, leaving space between them. Mia ran straight for the swings, dropping her coat in a heap on the ground. She pumped her legs until she was nearly level with the top bar hair streaming behind her. Riley watched her hands folded in her lap. "She has a lot of energy for a small person," she said. "She came out yelling and never really stopped," Ethan said. "The nurses at the hospital told us that was a good sign." Riley smiled. Her breath made short clouds in the air. "You come here every week," she said. "Most weeks," Ethan said. The cafe, then here, started right after the divorce. Mia was 3. Saturdays felt heavy, so we tried to give them a shape. Coffee muffin swings, something she could count on that did not change. Riley looked down at the scuffed toe of her sneaker. "Does it work?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said. "She looks forward to it. I do too." They sat quietly for a minute. The chains on the swing squeaked in a steady rhythm. Someone's dog barked at a squirrel that had already climbed far out of reach. "You did not have to tell me any of that," Riley said. He shrugged a shoulder. "You did not have to tell me about Worcester," he said. She took that in and nodded. Mia jumped from the swing at the highest point she dared, landed in a slippery pile of snow, and went down with a shout. She popped back up at once, laughing, snow clinging to the back of her jeans. Riley winced a little. "I used to do that," she said. "Abby and I would see who could scare our mother the most at the playground." "Who won?" Ethan asked. "Abby," Riley said. "She always went higher." Her gaze tracked Mia as she ran to the climbing structure, scrambled up, then thought better of the tall slide, and chose a lower tunnel. "You can tell her to be careful," Ethan said. "You are allowed." "I do not want to be the boring adult yet," Riley said. "Maybe later." Her tone was light, but Ethan heard something else under it, a wish and a boundary in the same breath. He studied the bench arm between them. The carved heart had 2 sets of initials worn down by time. He wondered who had sat here and thought those letters meant forever. He almost asked Riley if she missed sitting on benches with her parents. He did not. Some questions did not need words. Instead, he asked, "You said your aunt lives in Providence." "Yeah," Riley said. The word came out on a little fog of air. "She works nights at a printing plant. She likes crosswords and Lifetime movies. She makes lasagna whenever she does not know what else to do." "That is a solid coping strategy," Ethan said. "It is," Riley said. "The lasagna is really good." Mia ran back to them for a drink of water, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. She took Ethan's reusable bottle, drank, and handed it to Riley without asking. Riley took a sip, then another, and passed it back. "Can we come back with Riley next Saturday?" Mia asked. "You have to ask Riley," Ethan said. Mia turned immediately. "Will you?" she said. "Will you come back to our Saturday?" Riley looked from Mia to Ethan, her fingers pressed into the fabric of her jeans. "I will try," she said. "Trying counts," Mia said, as if she knew anything about failure rates. She sprinted away again before either adult could answer. Ethan and Riley watched her disappear into a cluster of kids near the slide. "She is very sure you will be here," Ethan said. "For a while," Riley said. "So was I, about other people." He did not push. The park with its swings and peeling paint and old carved names was full of ghosts for both of them, in different ways. They stayed until Mia's hands went pink from the cold, and she finally admitted she could not feel her fingers. On the walk back, Ethan held Mia's glove in one of his hands and stuffed the other into his pocket. Riley used the crutch again. Her pace had slowed a little. "Thank you," she said at the corner, where their paths would split. "For the seat, the cupcake, the bench." "You are welcome," Ethan said. "We are here most Saturdays." She nodded, gripping the strap of her backpack. "I know where to find you now," she said. The next Saturday she did. She came through the cafe door in a navy coat that had seen better winters and a knit hat pulled low over her ears. This time she did not scan the room first. Her gaze went straight to their table by the window. Mia waved both arms like she was marshalling an airplane. "You came back," she said when Riley reached them. "You sound surprised," Riley said. "You said you would try," Mia said. "Sometimes people say that and they do not." Riley considered that.
Sometimes the idea was still sing
She slipped into the empty chair as if it had been waiting for her. The crutch went back to its place against the wall. The weeks after that began to stack in quiet layers. Some mornings the cafe was brighter sun, higher in the sky. Some mornings rain streaked the window, turning the street outside into a blur of umbrellas. Their orders stayed mostly the same: black coffee, hot chocolate, something sweet with too much frosting for Mia, and more often than not, a cinnamon roll for Riley. Riley learned that Mia hated raisins, but would tolerate them if they came in cinnamon bread. Mia learned that Riley drew tiny doodles in the margins of napkins when she was thinking. Ethan learned that laughter sat closer to the surface for Riley than he had first guessed, and that it often came with a look of surprise, like she did not expect to hear herself. On a Tuesday evening in April, when the light hung on a little later than normal, Riley climbed the stairs to Ethan's apartment for the first time. The building was a narrow brick row house near the park. 3 stories, scuffed baseboards, the faint smell of someone cooking onions downstairs. Ethan had texted her the code. The door clicked open under her hand. His place sat on the second floor. The hallway was lined with Mia's artwork and a few framed maps. The doormat in front of his door read, "Probably grading papers." Riley smiled at that and knocked. Mia opened the door before Ethan could. She wore an oversized t-shirt spattered with paint. "We are making a diorama," Mia said in greeting. "It is for social studies. Dad is bad at trees." "I am excellent at trees," Ethan said from the table. "They are interpretive." The dining table sat near a window that looked over the street. 4 chairs surrounded it. 3 were pulled out. 1 was tucked in its back toward the wall. The tabletop was a mess of cardboard glue sticks, tiny plastic animals, and a pile of green construction paper that had suffered under blunt scissors. Riley set her backpack down and leaned her crutch in the corner. "Where do you want me?" she asked. Mia pointed at the chair that had been tucked in. "Here," she said. "This can be your chair." Ethan glanced up sharply. The muscles in his jaw moved once. Riley pulled the chair back and sat. It scraped faintly on the floorboards. The sounds of the building went on around them. A neighbor laughed at something on a television too loud. Someone's sink ran somewhere above. "Show me what you have so far," Riley said. For the next hour, the apartment smelled like cardboard and pizza. They worked on the diorama together, Mia narrating every decision as if a crowd were taking notes. Riley cut careful little tree shapes and showed Mia how to layer the paper so they looked less flat. Ethan glued a river in place and pretended not to care where the tiny plastic deer ended up. At one point, Mia leaned over the table, concentrating hard. A strand of hair slipped from her braid. Riley reached out and tucked it behind the girl's ear without thinking. The small gesture felt familiar the moment she did it, as if her hand had done this before in another kitchen. Later, after the glue had dried enough that Mia could carry her project to her room, to admire it one more time, Ethan and Riley sat at the same table with coffee instead of paint water. The 4th chair stayed empty, but no longer felt like it belonged to no one. "Thank you for rescuing the trees," Ethan said. "My forests tend to look like broccoli." "You are welcome," Riley said. "Abby used to say every tree I drew looked like it was keeping a secret." "Was she right?" he asked. "Probably," Riley said. The quiet between them was an easy one. Outside, a car door slammed. A siren wailed faintly in the distance and faded. Ethan traced a finger along a ring on the table where a glass had once sat. The groove was shallow, but his finger found it every time. "You mentioned the divorce," Riley said. "In the park." He nodded. "Do you mind if I ask what happened?" she said. He thought about brushing it off. It would be simple to say that people grew apart and leave it there. She had offered him so much more than the surface of her own story. It did not feel right to keep his sealed. "We were young," he said. "I met Jenna in college. She was the art student who stayed in the studio until midnight. I was the history major who went to bed at 10. Riley smiled into her mug. "Opposites attract," she said. "Sometimes," he said. "We thought it meant we balanced each other out. She wanted road trips and surprise flights. I wanted a calendar with everything written down. We tried to do both and just ended up tired." He remembered long drives where the air felt thick, not because of heat, but because of words they were not saying. Remembered standing in line for a museum while Jenna scanned travel blogs on her phone and talked about cities he had never heard of. "When Mia was born, we both tried even harder," he said. "Jenna stayed home with her at first. I picked up extra classes. We were always handing the baby to each other like a relay baton." He saw Riley watching him, not judging, just listening. "There was no big blow-up," he said. "No affair, no screaming match. Just a slow realizing that we wanted different shapes for our lives. She wanted a wider world. I wanted a smaller, steadier one. We kept trying to be each other's version, and it hurt both of us." He looked at the doorway where Mia had disappeared. Her light was on. A faint hum of her singing drifted down the hall. "We decided to end it before we started resenting each other," he said. "We went to mediation, signed papers, divided books and mugs and time with Mia. She moved to Seattle. I moved here. We kept Saturdays." Riley turned her mug between her palms. "Do you miss her?" she asked. "I miss who we were at 22 sometimes," he said. "Before the bills and the nights up with a crying baby and the arguments about who was supposed to pack the diaper bag." He let out a breath. "But do I miss being married to her?" he said. "No. I think we were braver ending it than we were starting it." Riley nodded slowly. "My parents never split," she said. "They talked about it sometimes. My mom would joke about sending my dad to live at the firehouse. I think they would have stayed no matter what. That does not make their way better." Her fingers tapped the side of her cup. "It is strange," she said. "The things you expect to last and the things you do not. A house, a marriage, a Saturday cafe." Ethan watched the way her mouth moved around the words. There was no accusation in them, only a tired wonder. He almost said that some things could start in the middle of a life instead of at the beginning. He did not. The thought stayed where it was, folded back for later. Mia padded back into the room in socks hair damp from a too-quick shower, clutching the diorama to her chest. "Can Riley tuck me in?" she asked. Ethan raised his brows. "You sure?" he said. Mia rolled her eyes, as if this were the most obvious request in the world. "She makes better blanket mountains," Mia said. Riley looked startled, then pleased in a shy way. "If it is okay with your dad," she said. "It is," Ethan said. He watched from the doorway as Riley adjusted the covers around Mia, listened to them negotiate how many stuffed animals could fit on one pillow. The soft murmur of their voices braided with the old floor creaks and the hum of the heater. When the apartment was quiet again, and Riley stood by the door with her coat on and her crutch under her arm, Ethan opened it for her. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for having me," she said. "You and Mia and the trees." He smiled. She took the stairs carefully. He waited until he heard the building's front door close before he went to the window. From there he could see the street below, washed in the sodium glow of the streetlight. Riley stepped out, tucked her chin into her scarf, and walked away, the rhythm of step and tap steady on the sidewalk. For the first time in a long while, when he looked back at his own table with its 4 chairs, the extra one did not feel like it belonged to a past that was gone. It felt like it was finally in use again. Spring leaned in slowly after that. The piles of snow on the sidewalk shrank. The wind stayed sharp, but the sun started to feel like something you could trust again. Saturdays settled into a pattern that felt less like a ritual and more like a life. They met at Beacon Street Cafe. Mia bolted for the case to check if the sprinkle selection had changed. Ethan ordered without looking at the menu anymore. Riley came through the door with a little less hesitation each time. Some days she wore a knit hat pulled low. Some days a soft blue beanie that Abby had once claimed made her look like a cartoon character. Her crutch tapped its quiet rhythm on the floor, then rested against the wall beside the same chair. They talked about Mia's spelling tests, about Ethan's students, and their creative approaches to not doing homework, about Riley's freelance clients. "It is a logo for a dog walking service," Riley said one Saturday, drawing a quick sketch on a napkin. "They want the dog to look fun, also professional, also reliable, also like it could pay taxes." Mia frowned at the drawing. "He looks like he is hiding something," she said. "He is hiding your math homework," Ethan said. Riley laughed. The sound fit in the air above their table the way the steam from their cups did. Text messages filled the spaces between Saturdays. Pictures of Mia's lopsided clay project. Photos of an absurdly huge cat that belonged to Ethan's neighbor. A shot from Riley's bus ride at dawn, when the sky turned the highway the same bruised pink as the inside of a seashell. On a rainy Thursday night, a streak of water ran down Ethan's kitchen window, crooked as a child's drawing. His phone buzzed. "Riley, do you ever feel like the weather is stuck in a mood?" "Ethan, I teach 8th grade. The weather is calmer than my classroom." Riley, point taken. She sent a picture of her laptop open on a glowing screen, a half-eaten burrito in the corner of the frame. Riley, Aunt Lila says, "If I finish 2 more mock-ups, I can choose the next terrible movie we watch." Ethan, choose the one with the least explosions. Riley, there are no explosions, only feelings. Ethan looked at the rain on the glass and thought of her in a different city, working in a room that did not yet feel like home. The distance between Boston and Providence felt smaller than it used to. Still, it was there. The next Saturday, Mia was at a birthday party in the morning. Ethan met Riley at the cafe without a 6-year-old buffer for the first time. The room seemed a little quieter, or maybe it was just that there was more space at their table. Riley slid into her usual chair and unwound a scarf from around her neck. Her hair was damp at the ends from the mist outside. "No hot chocolate debate today," she said. "She will grill you later for missing it," Ethan said. "She has questions about your stance on unicorns." "I should prepare a statement," Riley said. They ordered. The muffins looked the same. The coffee tasted the same. The empty chair at the end of the table stayed pushed in the way it always did when it was just Ethan and Mia. Ethan nodded at Riley's backpack. "You came in from Providence this morning?" he asked. "Yeah," she said. "Early train, 45 minutes. As long as no one pulls the emergency brake to impress their friends." "You must be tired of that ride," he said. "You would think so," she said. "But I tend to overthink on trains, so it is very efficient. Anxiety plus transportation." He smiled. She held his gaze a moment longer than usual, then looked down at her hands. "I have been looking at apartments," she said. He sat up a little straighter. "In Providence?" he asked. "In Boston," she said. "Close to here if I can swing it." The words landed between them. The cafe noise went on around them, the espresso machine exhaling in bursts. She kept talking before he could say anything. "It was Aunt Lila's idea," she said. "She loves me, but she likes her baked potato alone time, and she is right. I have been doing physical therapy there, but my work is not tied to Providence. My doctors are all in Boston anyway. The only thing keeping me there is fear and habit." "Fear and habit are stubborn," Ethan said. "They are," Riley said, "but they are not supposed to run the whole show." She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded sheet of paper with a few printed listings. "I have been circling places," she said, "trying to find something on the second floor or lower close to a bus line without 17 stairs and a landlord who thinks accessibility is a philosophy." She flattened the paper on the table. Ethan moved his mug to see. One listing had a tiny grainy photo of a brick building with a fire escape zigzagging down the front. Another showed a kitchen the size of a walk-in closet. He frowned. "That one is too far from the T," he said, tapping the first listing. "And that one looks like a set from a horror movie." "You are very opinionated for someone who is not on the lease," Riley said. He looked up at her. "You are serious," he said. Her eyes met his. There was a flicker of uncertainty there, and underneath it something like resolve. "I think I want to try," she said, "to build a life where I actually spend my time, not just pass through on weekends." He felt something in his chest shift, like furniture being moved quietly in another room. "Then we should find you a place that is not haunted," he said. That was how Ethan Cole found himself spending a string of lunch breaks, scrolling through rental listings on his phone. He checked square footage distances to the nearest bus stop photographs that showed promising amounts of sunlight. He made a list of questions he thought someone in Riley's position might ask, then crossed out half of them when they sounded too much like a teacher grading an assignment. On a gray Saturday after Mia's dance class, he and Riley met to see an apartment 2 streets over from his. The building was old brick, 3 stories, with a small stone stoop that had been worn smooth by years of footsteps. The landlord, a woman in her 50s with paint on her hands, met them at the door. "Second floor," she said. "No elevator, but the steps are wide. I can put in a railing on the other side if you need it." Riley nodded. Her hand tightened on the crutch for a moment, then relaxed. The stairs creaked under their weight. On the landing, a window let in a slab of light that fell across the banister. Inside, the studio smelled faintly of fresh paint and old wood. The floors were scratched but clean. A big window overlooked the street, framing a piece of sky and the top branches of a tree that had not yet decided if it was time to bud. Riley limped into the middle of the room and turned slowly, taking it in. There was just enough room for a bed, a small sofa, a table. The kitchenette tucked into one corner held a narrow stove and a sink with a single faucet. "There is a laundry room in the basement," the landlord said, "and quiet hours after 10. The last tenant was a grad student who wrote poetry at 3 in the morning and thought no one could hear." Riley tried the window latch. It stuck for a second, then gave way. The glass was streaked but clear. She could see the cafe sign at the end of the block, the corner of the park beyond that. "Heat included," the landlord added, "and I do not raise the rent every year unless the city makes me." Riley rested her hand on the windowsill. The light fell across her knuckles. Ethan watched the way her shoulders loosened a fraction. "What do you think?" he asked. She did not answer right away. Her eyes were on the view, but he could tell she was also seeing other things layered over it. A desk with a tablet on it, a bookshelf, a photo or two. "I think," she said slowly, "that I can imagine waking up here and not immediately wanting to be somewhere else." She turned to the landlord. "Can I have a day to think about it?" she asked. "You can have until tomorrow morning," the woman said. "Someone else is coming on Monday." When they stepped back outside, the air smelled like rain, even though the clouds had not broken yet. "Well," Ethan said, "it is not haunted." "It might have a ghost with a poetry degree," Riley said, "but I think I can handle that." They walked in silence for a bit. The cafe sign swung gently in the breeze as they passed it. "If you take it," Ethan said, "Mia is going to organize a parade." Riley smiled. "I am not sure what that would entail," she said. "A lot of construction paper," he said, "possibly a song." She shook her head, but there was color in her cheeks that had not been there when they met at the door. The next day he received a picture message from her. It was the studio this time, with a signed lease on the counter. Her handwriting was a little crooked in the margin where she had doodled a tiny tortoise. Underneath she had typed, "Guess I am a Boston person now." He stared at the screen longer than the words required. Moving day arrived with a sky the color of steel wool. Ethan showed up at Aunt Lila's house in Providence with two of his colleagues, a pickup truck they had borrowed from the art department, and a promise to be careful with the boxes labeled "fragile" and "do not tilt." Aunt Lila was shorter than Riley and had the same eyes. She shook Ethan's hand firmly and pressed a container of lasagna on him before they even started loading. "For afterward," she said, "you will all be starving. Artists and teachers always are." Riley's belongings fit into more boxes than he expected, and fewer than he feared. A bed frame, a mattress, 2 bookshelves, a small sofa, a collection of mismatched mugs that looked like they each had a story. There was a box of photos she carried herself tucked against her chest as if it were another limb. The drive back up to Boston felt different from the ones Riley had made alone. The truck rattled. Someone's playlist crackled over the speakers. Aunt Lila's lasagna sat in the back seat like a promise. At the new building, Mia waited on the stoop, bouncing on the balls of her feet. "Is this it?" she asked Riley as they carried the first box up. "Is this your forever house?" "Let us start with for a while house," Riley said. Mia considered this. "For a while is still good," she said. They hauled furniture up the stairs in careful stages. Riley took lighter loads and sometimes just carried pillows, muttering under her breath about being demoted to pillows and lamps. By early afternoon, the studio was full. Not neat, not yet, but full. The bed stood under the window. The sofa hugged one wall. The table waited near the kitchenette with 3 mismatched chairs around it, one more than she needed. Mia stuck handwritten labels on cabinets, plates, cups, magic snacks. One crooked piece of tape on the front door read, "Riley's Place," in wobbly marker letters. Ethan's colleagues said their goodbyes and took the truck. Aunt Lila hugged her niece hard at the door, told her to answer her phone, then left with a final look that held both worry and pride. By the time the sun started to slide behind the buildings across the street, only Ethan and Riley and Mia remained. They sat on the floor around the lasagna, eating off paper plates. The room smelled like tomato and cheese and cardboard. "This is the best restaurant," Mia declared. "It has very strict reservations," Riley said. "You have to know the chef." Mia sprawled on the rug afterward, watching a cartoon on Riley's laptop. Her eyelids drooped halfway through the second episode. Ethan closed the screen and tucked a blanket around her. "She is out," he said. Riley leaned against the sofa legs stretched in front of her, one metal, one not. The light from the window had gone from bright to soft, a kind of liquid gold that smoothed the edges of the boxes and made the scratches on the floor look intentional. "This feels strange," she said. "In a good way, like when you step off a boat and the ground still feels like it is moving." "You will get your land legs back," he said. She looked around the room. "It is mine," she said as if she was testing the words. "This is my place." Her eyes landed on the window. Outside, the streetlights blinked on. Her reflection looked back at her in the glass, slightly doubled by the angle. Behind her reflection, Ethan's shape was there, too soft or taller. "I do not remember the last time I could say that," she added. He watched her profile the way the evening light caught the small scar near her brow, the line of her mouth. His chest felt too tight and too open at the same time. She turned her head and caught him looking. For a second, neither of them looked away. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for hauling things, for talking me into a non-haunted apartment." "You did all the hard parts," he said. "I had help," she said. On the floor, Mia murmured in her sleep and rolled over, one hand flopping onto Riley's foot. Riley looked down at the small, trusting weight resting there. Her face softened. Something in the room shifted then. Not the light, not the temperature, something less visible and more important. Ethan felt his heart give a slow, unfamiliar turn, like a door that had been stuck for a long time finally moving on its hinges. He did not put a name to it. He did not say anything at all. He just sat in the middle of Riley's half-unpacked studio with a sleeping 6-year-old on the floor, and the woman who owned the boxes sitting beside him and let the feeling settle where it wanted to stay. Riley's studio began to look less like a storage unit and more like a place someone lived. The boxes disappeared one by one. A second-hand rug covered the worst of the floor scratches. A string of warm white lights zigzagged along the wall above the bed. Photos of her parents and Abby stood on the windowsill, their edges catching the light in uneven ways. On Friday nights, Aunt Lila called for updates and to ask if Riley was eating real food or surviving on crackers. On weeknights, the studio hummed with the low buzz of her tablet and the click of her stylus. On Saturdays, her door stayed propped open a little longer than necessary as she made her way down the stairs. Beacon Street Cafe, then the park, then sometimes Ethan's apartment. The pattern thickened into something that felt less fragile. One evening in late May, the sky outside Ethan's kitchen window glowed a soft peach before sliding toward gray. The table was covered in construction paper and the remnants of grilled cheese. Mia sat at the far end, tongue between her teeth, cutting out crooked stars for a class bulletin board. Ethan graded essays with a pen that had started the week full of ink and was now protesting. His phone buzzed face down on the table. The screen lit up beneath his hand. He flipped it over out of habit. Jenna. His chest did a small familiar lurch that had nothing to do with romance and everything to do with history. He glanced at Mia. She was humming to herself, unaware. He stood, pulled the phone off the table, and stepped into the hallway. "Hey," he said. "Hi." Jenna's voice came bright in his ear with a faint echo. "Did I catch you at a bad time?" "Just grading," he said. "Mia is massacring construction paper in the next room." "I will keep it short," she said, though her tone said she would not. "I have news." He leaned against the wall. The paint was cool on his shoulder. "Good news?" he asked. "Yeah," she said. "Great, actually. I got an offer. Museum of Fine Arts, assistant curator. They want me in Boston by the end of the summer." For a second, all he heard was the word Boston. The rest crowded in after a rush of job titles and dates. "They hired you," he said. "That is incredible, Jen. You have wanted that for years." "I know," she said. He could hear the smile in her voice. "I screamed into a pillow when I hung up so I would not terrify my neighbor. I wanted to tell you before I posted anything." His eyes went to the doorway. From here he could see Mia's bare feet swinging under her chair. "So you are moving back," he said. "That is the plan," she said. "I have been thinking about it for a while, even before the offer. I miss her, Ethan. Missing whole weeks of her life is starting to feel like I am watching from another room." He thought of the times Mia's face softened, after a video call, then settled into something more neutral. The way she turned the word Seattle into a faraway place in her sentences. "She will be thrilled," he said. "There is something else," Jenna said, and the lift in her voice dimmed a little. "I have been in therapy." He almost smiled. "Congratulations," he said. "Smart ass," she said. "I have been thinking about us. How fast we jumped from 'we are not working' to 'let us sign papers and never speak of this again.' We were kids. We were scared. We did the best we could, but I am wondering if we were too quick to walk away." He let her words sit. The hallway seemed narrower than it had when he stepped into it. "What are you saying?" he asked. "I am saying," she said carefully, "that maybe we could think about whether there is anything left worth exploring. Not now, not next week. I know you have a life. I am not trying to bulldoze into it. But once I am there, if it felt right, maybe we could try a dinner that is not about drop-offs and pickups. For Mia, for us." There it was, the shape of the thing she wanted laid out like a blueprint. "You want to get back together," he said. "I am not asking you for an answer," she said quickly. "I just did not want to come back and pretend the thought had not crossed my mind. A real family in one city. Both parents in the same zip code. That is not nothing, Ethan." He closed his eyes for a moment. Images flashed uninvited. Mia at that table, all three of them in this apartment, an old picture pulled into the present and stretched over people who had changed. "Jen," he began, "you do not have to say anything tonight," she said. "Seriously, I might regret even bringing it up. Just think about it. If not for us, then for her." He opened his eyes. A small cutout paper star drifted past the doorway and landed on the floor as if the conversation had shaken it loose. "I will think about it," he said, "because anything else on that sentence would be a lie." "Okay," she said. "Tell Mia I love her. I will call tomorrow." They hung up. The hallway returned to its ordinary quiet. The voices from a neighbor's television seeped through the wall, some sitcom laugh track badly timed. Ethan stared at the dark screen for a moment longer, then walked back into the kitchen. Was that Mom? Mia asked at once. Yay, he said. She has news. Her whole body straightened. Good or bad? She asked. Good, he said. She got a new job. She is moving back to Boston. The scissors dropped from Mia's hand and clattered on the table. Her mouth fell open. Here, she said. Like here, not visit here. Here, he said, unable to stop a small smile at the way she repeated it. She will live in the same city again. Mia squealed. The sound rang off the cabinets. Can I call her? She asked, already scrambling for the phone. She said she would call tomorrow, he said. She wanted me to tell you first. Mia bounced in her chair, hands on her knees. This means, she said, words spilling over one another. This means I can see her after school, and not just on screens and planes. This means holidays. This means maybe if you and Mom are in the same place, you can fall back in love. The last sentence came out in a rush. She stopped watching his face. Ethan's stomach dropped a little, as if he had stepped off a curb he had not seen. It is not that simple, he said, careful. But it could be, she said. Harper's parents broke up, and then they got back together when her dad moved home, and now they have a baby and a big dog, and it is not weird at all. He thought of Harper's parents and the fragments of their story he knew, of the way a child turned any reconciliation into a fairy tale, whether it fit or not. Mia, he said, your mom and I love you very much. We will always be on the same team with you. That does not mean we work as a couple. We tried. We were not happy together in that way. But you could try again, she said. Her eyes shone. If she lives here, and you live here, and I live here, we could all live in the same house. That is what families do. Her certainty pressed against him harder than Jenna's suggestion had. He sat down. Sometimes, he said slowly, parents are better parents when they are not married to each other. Your mom is an amazing mom. I am a decent dad on most days. We can be that without being husband and wife again. She crossed her arms and stared at the paper stars on the table. I wish you would want it, she said, voice small. I wish you would want us all together. He wanted to tell her that he wanted many things for her that he could not give. A world where houses did not explode. A life where no one ever left. A version of himself who had not needed to leave her mother. Instead, he said, I know, Bug, I know. She went back to cutting out shapes more forcefully now. The scissors left jagged edges on the next sloppy star. On Saturday, Beacon Street Cafe buzzed with the sound of early summer. College students in t-shirts filled the back tables. Someone's radio crackled faintly from an open car window outside. Riley arrived a few minutes late, her hair pulled up, sunglasses perched on her head. She took one look at Ethan and Mia and tilted her head. You both look like you have been processing things, she said as she slid into her chair. We are fine, Mia said in the bright, brittle tone kids used when they were anything but. Ethan gave Riley a half smile. Jenna called, he said. She got a job in Boston. She will be moving back. Riley's fingers stilled on the napkin dispenser. Wow, she said. That is big. Museum job. Museum of Fine Arts, he said. Assistant curator. That is huge, Riley said. She must be over the moon. She is, he said. Riley waited. Her eyes searched his face, reading more than he was saying. And you? She asked. There were a dozen ways to answer. He picked the smallest piece. It is a lot of change, he said. Mia is excited. Schedules will shift. We will figure it out. He felt the word figure, carrying a weight he did not unpack. He did not mention Jenna's other suggestion. The idea sat in the back of his mind like a box he had not opened. Riley nodded slowly. For Mia, seeing her more will be good, she said. Mia, who had been tearing a muffin wrapper into tiny pieces, burst in. It means we could be a real family again, she said. All three of us together. Riley looked at her. You are already a real family, she said. You know what I mean, Mia said. One house, one table, not two different couches. Riley's gaze flicked to Ethan's, then away. Real does not always mean that, Riley said gently. Mia frowned as if she did not accept the terms. Riley folded her hands around her cup. Hey, she said lightly, aiming for a different current. Tell me about your field trip. Did the penguins judge you again? The conversation shifted. Mia launched into a detailed account of the aquarium, complete with impressions of sea lions. Ethan watched Riley as she nodded and laughed in the right places, as her eyes slid every so often to the window, where a reflection of their table shimmered faintly in the glass. A little later, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down. His sister's name lit up the screen. I should take this, he said. It is about Mom's doctor appointment. I will be right here, Riley said. He stepped outside into the bright air. The bell above the door chimed behind him. Inside, Mia turned to Riley at once, apparently unable to hold her thoughts any longer. "Guess what?" she said, leaning in until her elbows were almost in the sugar. "I told Dad he and Mom could fall back in love when she moves here." Riley's hand tightened around her mug. The ceramic was warm under her palm. "You did," she said carefully. "Yes," Mia said. "I told him we could be like Harper's family. I ask God about it every night. I think he is listening. Why else would Mom get a job here?" Riley swallowed. The cafe around them blurred at the edges for a moment. The clink of dishes and the hiss of steam became a dull hum. "That is a very big wish," she said. "It is the biggest," Mia said. Her eyes shone with certainty. "I want both my parents at the same table, like before, without taking turns." Riley looked at the table between them, at the two coffee rings overlapping at the empty space where Ethan's hand had been moments ago. "And where do you see me in that picture?" Riley asked before she could stop herself. The question came out softer than she felt it. Mia did not hear the caution under it. "You can still come over," Mia said. "You are my friend. But Mom and Dad belong together more. That is what everyone says about parents. They are supposed to be together." Riley felt something inside her chest crack a hairline fracture that ran along an old fault. "Who is everyone?" she asked. Mia shrugged. "Harper. Movies. Church sometimes. They all say families are Mom and Dad and kids. We could have that again now. We just have to wait for them to remember they love each other." Riley forced air into her lungs. "Do you think your dad wants that?" she asked. "He has to," Mia said, as if desire were a requirement. "He loves me. He knows it is better for me. He just needs time to get used to the idea." Ethan's reflection appeared in the window for a second, crossing behind her shoulder, as he moved past other people outside. Riley watched it, then looked back at Mia. "I see," she said quietly. Mia reached for a sugar packet and started tearing it into neat strips, unaware of the storm she had summoned. The door opened. The bell chimed. Ethan came back to the table, sliding his phone into his pocket. "Everything okay?" he asked, indistantly sold. "Grandma is fine," he said, just arguing with her doctor about salt again. Mia grinned at that. The tension she had carried had nowhere to go, so it settled into the twist of a sugar wrapper. Riley smiled too, but it did not reach as far as it usually did. That night in her studio, the city hummed outside Riley's window. Car lights moved along the street below. Somewhere a siren wailed and then faded. She lay on her back on the bed, one arm flung over her eyes. The ceiling above her was a blank, pale plane. The glow from the city lights turned it the color of ash. Mia's words replayed in her head, each one finding an old place to land. Real family. Both parents. Supposed to be together. The photos on her windowsill caught the faint light. Her father in his fire jacket, her mother in green scrubs, Abby with marker on her nose. They looked like they belonged together in a way that had ended without their consent. Riley sat up and swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her metal foot touched the rug with a soft thud. The studio smelled like late-night coffee and the last of Aunt Lila's lasagna in the fridge. She crossed to the window and rested her forehead against the cool glass. Her reflection met her. Behind it, the streetlights turned the sidewalk into stripes. She tried to imagine Mia in a few years old enough to understand everything they were all trying not to say. She imagined the girl looking back and seeing the period where her mother came home and her father was with someone else. Seeing Riley as the wedge that kept some picture from snapping back into place. The idea made bile rise in her throat. She pressed her fingertips to the glass until her nails hurt. "You do not get to keep everything," she whispered to herself. "You already kept your own life when they lost theirs. You do not get to take more." Her phone lay on the little table by the bed. The screen was dark. She picked it up and opened a message thread without thinking. "Ethan. Did Mia fall asleep right after I dropped her off?" Riley stared at the last text on the screen from earlier that afternoon, still unanswered. Her thumbs hovered. She typed, "I feel like I have been taking up a lot of your time. You and Mia probably need more space, especially now with Jenna moving back." She stared at the words, heart beating hard enough that she could feel it in her throat. She hit send before she could change her mind. The message whooshed out into whatever cloud stored their conversations. The small delivered mark appeared. On the sill, the photo of her family leaned against the glass. Their faces caught a passing sweep of car light. For a second, it looked like they were moving like someone had just called their name, and they were about to turn. Riley closed her eyes. In the quiet of the studio, with the city breathing just outside the glass, she began to pull herself backward in her mind, one careful step at a time. Ethan was rinsing dishes when his phone buzzed again. He dried his hands on a towel and picked it up, expecting a spam email or a school notification. Riley's name glowed on the screen instead. I feel like I have been taking up a lot of your time. You and Mia probably need more space, especially now with Jenna moving back. He read it twice. The kitchen light hummed quietly. Water ran in the sink in a thin stream, forgotten. In the living room, the muted glow from the television painted the couch in shifting colors. He typed back, "You are not taking up space. You are part of our time. Did I do something?" He erased the last sentence, rewrote it. "Did I miss something?" He erased that too. Finally, he sent, "We like having you around. A lot. But if you need space, I will try to respect that. Just know you never have to apologize for being here." The 3 dots that meant someone was typing appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then came her reply. "You did not do anything. I am just trying to be thoughtful. It has been a strange week." He stared at the words. They were the kind someone used when they wanted to close a door without slamming it. "If you ever want to talk about strange," he wrote, "I am almost a professional." He added a crooked smile emoji and then deleted it. He sent the sentence bare. This time there was no answer. He set the phone on the counter and forced himself to finish the dishes. The clink of plates sounded louder than usual. The next day he texted her a picture of Mia's lopsided paper stars taped to the fridge. Star charts now. She is renaming constellations. One of them is apparently called the Big Nibbles. 10 minutes passed. 20. "Cute," Riley wrote. "Tell her the Big Nibbles definitely controls the tide." No follow-up, no joke, no question. On Friday he sent movie night tomorrow. Mia is lobbying for animated chaos. "You in?" He waited through the rest of his planning period. Through bus duty, through the walk home. "Sorry" came later that evening. "I am slammed with a deadline. Rain check." Saturday morning the cafe felt too big. Ethan and Mia sat at their usual table by the window. The empty chair across from him seemed more obvious than it had in months. "Is Riley coming?" Mia asked as she peeled the paper from her muffin. "She has work," Ethan said. "Big project." "She always has big projects," Mia said. "She still comes." He stirred his coffee and watched the door. Each time it opened, a small part of him expected to see a knit hat and a canvas backpack. Each time, someone else walked in. They went to the park after just the 2 of them. The bench by the swings held their coats and Ethan's coffee cup. The space on one end felt cold and unused. The week slid past. Papers to grade, emails to answer, a faculty meeting that should have been an email. When he texted Riley, she responded, but the messages landed like pebbles skimming the surface instead of stones dropping into the same pool. Saturday, he tried again. "Beacon at 10, she replied after an hour. "Not feeling great, going to stay in. Have fun with Mia for me." He reread "for me" until the words blurred. At the cafe, Mia sat with her chin in her hand, stirring her hot chocolate until the whipped cream vanished into a pale foam. "She is sick," Ethan said. "She needs rest." "Did we make her mad?" Mia asked. The question pierced him. "Why would you think that?" he asked. "Because people do not just stop coming," she said. "Not if they like you." He thought of people who had stopped coming. He thought of his own threshold for walking away. It felt wrong to feed her any easy answer. "I do not think she is mad," he said. "Sometimes people pull back for reasons that have nothing to do with us." Mia frowned. "That sounds like adult nonsense," she said. He almost laughed. It caught in his throat instead. The 3rd Saturday without Riley was worse. Mia dragged her feet on the walk into the cafe, kicking at a crack in the sidewalk until her shoe scraped. "What if we go to her house?" she said. "We cannot just show up," he said. "You always say if someone matters, you show up," she said. "You showed up at Grandma's when she fell. You showed up at Aunt Kim's when she had the baby. Why is this different?" He had no simple answer to that either. Inside the cafe, the light was sharp and clear. The city felt like it had opened all its windows. It did not reach the hollow spot at their table. They sat through muffins and coffee and a shared scone Mia had hoped would feel like a celebration of something. It did not. On the way home, Mia finally asked, "Did I do something?" "No," Ethan said too fast. "No, you did not." "Then why does it feel like when Mom left?" she said. He stopped walking. They were on the sidewalk between 2 brick buildings. Window boxes over their heads held last year's dried flowers. A bus roared past, wind pushing at their coats. "When Mom and I separated," he said softly, "we talked about it for a long time. It did not happen all at once. It felt fast to you, because we did not know how to tell you until everything was already in motion. That is on us, not on you." She tugged at the strap of her backpack. "This feels like that," she said. "Just quieter." His chest hurt. He bent a little so his eyes were level with hers. "I promise you," he said, "if anything changes between me and Riley, you will know because we talk about it, not because she disappears without a word. Sometimes grown-ups are dealing with their own stuff in their heads, and it spills over. That does not mean they stopped caring." "But she has stopped coming," Mia said. He had no defense to that, only a half answer. "She texted," he said. "She says she is busy. She says she is trying to be thoughtful. I think something scared her." "Like what?" Mia asked. He thought of Jenna's call, of his own spinning thoughts, of the way he had said a lot of change without unpacking what that meant. "I am not sure," he said. "Maybe I should ask." They walked the rest of the way in silence. The apartment felt smaller than usual when they stepped inside. That evening, after Mia was in bed, he sat in the living room with the television on low, forgotten. His mind replayed the last few weeks like flipping back through a deck of cards. The call from Jenna, Mia's excited wish for a reunited house, Riley's quiet face across from him at the cafe, the sudden edge in her posture after Mia spoke. He picked up his phone and scrolled through messages until he found the last one she had sent. Especially now with Jenna moving back, he set the phone down and rubbed his eyes. Mia's door opened. Soft footsteps padded down the hall. She appeared in the doorway, hair mussed blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "Could not sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Did you tell Riley that you want Mom to move back in?" he asked. Mia climbed up onto the couch beside him. "I told her it would be the best thing," she said. "I told her I pray about it every night. I told her if Mom got a job here, it would be proof it was supposed to happen." His stomach clenched. "Did you say anything about me?" he asked carefully. "About how I feel?" Mia hesitated. "I said you would understand," she said, "because you love me and you want what is best. I said you just needed time." He sat back. The ceiling seemed farther away. "In her head," he said slowly, "that might sound like you are asking her to step aside." Mia frowned. "I did not say that," she said. "You did not have to," he said. "If you tell someone that a child's happiness depends on two other people getting back together, and that those two people are the ones you belong to first, it is not hard to connect the rest." Mia pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "That sounds complicated," she said. "It is complicated," he said. "But I am the one who is supposed to carry that, not you. I should have talked to you more clearly before you had to guess." She stared at the dark screen of the television. "Do you think she thinks I picked Mom over her?" Mia asked. He thought of Riley at the table, the way she had looked at the empty chair when Mia said real family. "I think," he said carefully, "Riley is someone who knows what it is like to lose the people she loves. She would do almost anything to keep you from feeling that, even if it hurts her." "That sounds like something a hero in a movie would do," Mia said. "Sometimes it looks like that," he said. "Sometimes it just looks like not answering texts." They sat in quiet for a moment. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. "You should tell her," Mia said. "You should tell her she does not have to go away." He exhaled. "I think you are right," he said. After he tucked Mia back into bed and waited until her breathing deepened, he grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door. The night air outside was cooler than it had been earlier. The city lights reflected off low clouds, turning the sky a dull orange. Riley's building stood 2 blocks away, familiar now, in the way the curve of a neighbor's face becomes familiar. The stone stoop held a small pot with a new plant in it. One of her downstairs neighbors had string lights around their window. He climbed the stairs, counting them under his breath. On the second-floor landing, the window looked out over the street. His own building's roofline was visible from here, a small comfort. Riley's door had a strip of tape with her name written in black marker, Mia's handiwork still slightly crooked. He lifted his hand and knocked. There was a pause. Footsteps moved on the other side. The sound of something light being moved aside. The lock clicked. The door opened a fraction, then wider. Riley stood there in an oversized t-shirt and leggings, hair pulled up into a messy knot, no makeup. Eyes rimmed with the soft blur of someone who had not been preparing for company. For a heartbeat, her face flashed from surprise to concern. "Is Mia okay?" she asked at once. "She is fine," he said. "She is asleep." He took a breath. "We need to talk," he said. "We need to talk," he said. Riley's hand was still on the doorknob. For a second, she looked like she might close it again just to stop whatever was about to happen. Then she stepped back. "Okay," she said. "Come in." The studio was lit by a single floor lamp in the corner and a small candle on the table. The candle smelled faintly of vanilla and something floral. The boxes were gone. The bed was made. A mug sat on the table with a teabag string hanging over the rim. Photos lined the windowsill, their faces familiar to Ethan now. Mark in his jacket, Elena in scrubs, Abby in a sweatshirt too big for her. Riley moved a hoodie off the second chair at the little table and gestured for him to sit. She stayed standing for a moment, then sat across from him, the table between them, like a low border. The crutch leaned against the wall near the bed. Her metal leg caught a glint of light each time she shifted. "You look freaked out," she said, trying for a joke that did not quite land. "I am," he said, "a little." She folded her arms across her chest. "Is this about Jenna?" she asked. "Is that why you are here?" "It is partly about Jenna," he said, "but mostly about you and Mia, and why you have been disappearing." A muscle jumped in her jaw. She looked down at the candle, watched the small flame bend with her breath. "I told you," she said. "It has been a strange week. I have been busy." "Busy does not sound like you," he said. "Busy sounds like an excuse you think will make me not ask questions." She flinched just a flicker. "Maybe I do not want you to ask," she said. He leaned forward, forearms on his knees. "Tough," he said quietly. "I am asking anyway." She let out a breath that ended in something like a laugh. "You are supposed to be the nice teacher," she said. "That is a rumor," he said. The corner of her mouth twitched, then settled. "You are pulling away because Jenna is moving back," he said, "because of what Mia said to you. Am I wrong?" Her eyes came up fast at that, then dropped again. Her fingers picked at a non-existent thread on the table. "You talked to Mia," she said. "She told me what she told you," he said, "about praying for us to fall back in love, about being a real family." The phrase tasted sour in his mouth now. Riley kept her gaze fixed on the candle. "She is 6, she said. "She wants what every kid in that situation wants. Both parents in one house, one table, no schedules, no flights. Who am I to argue with that?" "You are not the one who has to give her that," he said. "Except I am the one in the way," Riley said, and now the words came faster. "In her head, at least. She draws a picture, and there is Mom and Dad and Mia. That is the original lineup. I am the extra character they added in season 3. "That is not how this works," he said. "It is exactly how it looks," she said. "Your ex-wife moves back. Your kid starts praying for a reunion, and then there is me. The girl with the robot leg and the tragic backstory who wandered into the cafe and into your lives." Her voice shook on the last words. She swallowed hard. "I did not mean to stay this long," she said. "I did not mean to get so attached. To you, to her, to this neighborhood and this stupid cafe and that bench. But I did. And I watched a child look me in the eye and tell me her dream was for me to not be needed here." "That is not what she said," he began. "It is what she meant," Riley said. "She just did not have the words." He let the protest die. He could not argue with what it had felt like for her. "So you decided to leave before anyone asked you to," he said. "Something like that," she said. "You have already lost one family, Ethan. I am not going to be the reason your kid feels like she never got the chance to have hers back." Her eyes shone. She blinked fast, refusing to let the tears spill. "You know what it is like to lose family," she said. "Imagine being the person standing between a child and a version of that loss she thinks she can fix." He sat with that. The candle flame danced in the small draft from the window. "You are not standing between her and anything," he said. "You are standing with her in the life she actually has." Riley shook her head. "You do not know," she said. "You are being kind, but you do not know." "Then let me tell you something you do not know," he said. "Jenna mentioned trying again. She floated the idea on that call, and I have not seriously considered it for even a second." Riley looked up at that. "She did," Riley said. "Mia made it sound like a plan." "It was a thought," he said. "A thought from someone who has been far away, who feels guilty, who misses her kid, and who is wondering if the solution is to hit rewind. But we cannot rewind, and we should not." He paused, searching for the right words. "Jenna and I did not break because we were tired," he said. "We broke because we are not built to live the same kind of life. That did not change just because a museum finally figured out she is brilliant." Riley's lips twitched even as her eyes stayed wet. "You loved her," she said. "I did," he said. "I loved who we were when we were 22. I will probably always care about her. She is Mia's mother. That is a root you cannot dig out without killing the tree." He shook his head. "But being in love with her," he said, "wanting to build a home with her again, that is gone, has been for a long time." Riley studied his face, looking for cracks. "Then why did you not tell me that?" she asked. "Why did you just say a lot of change and disappear into your head?" "Because I am an idiot," he said, "and because I was so busy trying to manage everybody else's feelings that I forgot to check what I really wanted." He straightened a little. These last 4 months, he said, have been the happiest I have been since the divorce. That is not because my life got easier, it is because you were in it. Her breath caught. You make my kid laugh so hard she snorts, he went on. You get her art projects in a way I never could. You show up on weekends and on random Tuesdays when I text you a photo of a broken copier. You listen when I complain about adolescence. You send me pictures of the sky at weird hours. You sit at our table like you have always belonged there. He shook his head once. You did more than fill an empty chair, he said. You made the whole table feel different. Riley's fingers tightened on the edge of the table. Ethan, she said, warning in her tone, as if she could sense where he was going. He did not pull back. I am in love with you, he said. I have been for a while. I am just finally catching up to it. The words hung between them warm and terrifying. Riley stared at him. Her eyes filled faster now. A tear slipped over her lower lid and down her cheek. She did not wipe it away. You cannot say that, she whispered. Why not? He asked. Because, she said, her voice breaking, I have spent months telling myself I'm stupid for feeling that way about you. Because I moved here knowing I was crossing a line in my own head. Because every time you smiled at me at that table, I had to pretend it was not what I wanted. And if you say it out loud, I do not know how to unhear it. He stood then, slowly giving her time to push him away if she wanted to. She did not move. He walked around the small table and stopped beside her. The candle flickered between them for a moment, then went still. Riley, he said softly, look at me. She did. I love you, he said again, quieter now. Not because you survived something awful and I feel sorry for you. Not because it would be convenient to have another adult around. Because you are funny and sharp and stubborn. Because you see the world in a way that makes me see it differently. Because when you walked into that cafe, it felt like the part of my life I did not know was missing walked in with you. She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. I love you too, she said. I think I started the day you made your daughter sing to a stranger and buy her a cupcake. Her shoulders shook. But I am so scared, she added, of messing you up, of messing Mia up, of waking up one day and realizing I am not enough, that I am a stand-in until the original cast gets back together. You are not a stand-in, he said. You are the person I would choose even if everything else were simple. She bowed her head. A tear fell onto the back of his hand where it rested on the table. He reached for her slow enough that she could refuse. She did not. She stood. The chair scraped lightly. She took one step into him and pressed her forehead against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her. One hand slid up to the back of her head, fingers weaving into her hair. The other settled between her shoulder blades, feeling the shiver that ran through her. For a moment, she stayed stiff as if expecting to be pushed away. When that did not happen, she sagged into him, the weight of months dropping into the space between his arms. I do not know how to do this without hurting someone, she said into his shirt. We will hurt people less by being honest than by pretending, he said. Mia can handle the truth. Jenna can handle the truth. What I cannot handle is losing you because you thought you were doing us a favor. Her laugh this time was small but real. You are very bossy for an art teacher, she said. History, he said automatically, and she snorted. He eased back just enough to see her face. Tear tracks shone on her cheeks. Her eyes were red at the rims but clear. He cupped her face gently, thumbs brushing away the wet. Can I kiss you? He asked. The question landed soft. He felt her breath catch. Yes, she said. Please. He leaned in. The kiss was not cinematic. There were no fireworks, no sweeping music. Just the warmth of her mouth, the faint taste of tea, the way her hand fisted in the front of his shirt, as if to keep him there. It felt to him less like starting something, and more like stepping into a room he had been peeking into for a long time. When they parted, they stayed close foreheads, almost touching. The candle had burned lower, a small pool of wax gathering at its base. Riley took a shaky breath. What about Mia? She asked. What if she hates me for not being her mom? For being the person her dad loves who is not her mom? We will talk to her, he said. Together. She already adores you. She might be confused at first, but she will understand. Kids can handle complex stories if the people telling them are steady. Riley nodded, though her eyes betrayed how unsure she still felt. And Jenna, she said, she will be in the picture. She will, he said, as Mia's mother, not as my wife. That part of the picture is yours if you want it. He watched the way she processed that, the way her shoulders moved through fear, hope, disbelief. I want it, she said quietly. I just did not think I was allowed to. You are allowed, he said. Outside, a car passed headlights sliding briefly across the walls. The city murmured through the glass. In the small studio, the air felt still and certain. Riley let out a long breath she had been holding since the day she walked into the cafe on her birthday. "Okay," she said, "then I will stop trying to leave." He smiled relief, loosening something in his chest. "Good," he said, "because I am terrible at losing people." She leaned into him again, her arms settling around his waist, as if they had always known where to go. They stood like that for a long time in the circle of lamplight, with the candle burning low between forgotten mugs and the photos on the windowsill, watching over them from another life. Ethan left Riley's building close to midnight. The street was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt like the city holding its breath. His breath fogged in front of him. He walked the 2 blocks home with his hands in his pockets and his mind somewhere between the studio he had just left and the apartment where his daughter slept. Inside, the apartment smelled like dish soap and the faint sweetness of the cereal Mia had insisted on for dinner. Her bedroom door was half closed. He paused there for a moment, listening to the soft, steady sound of her breathing. He knew they could not leave her in the dark and hoped she tripped over the truth gently. In the morning, the kitchen light was softer. Sun slipped in at an angle through the window, catching on crumbs and the rim of a forgotten cup on the counter. Mia sat at the table in her pajamas, hair sticking out on one side, scooping cereal out of a bowl. Milk dripped down her spoon and left little dots on the table. Ethan poured coffee and sat across from her. The chair beside him stayed empty. "We need to talk," he said. She paused mid-bite. "About homework," she asked. "About Mom," he said, "and Riley, and what is going to happen when Mom moves here." She set the spoon down carefully. "Okay," she said, wary. He took a sip of coffee, more to buy himself a second than because he wanted it. "You know Mom got that job at the museum," he said. Mia nodded. "In Boston," she said. "You said she will live here again." "Yes," he said. "She will. That part is true, and it is good news. You will see her a lot more. There will be dinners and weekends and art shows I will pretend to understand." Mia's mouth twitched at that, but her eyes stayed serious. "You also said," he went on, "that you hoped Mom and I would fall back in love and live in one house. That we would be a real family again." "Yeah," she said. "I still think that is a good plan." He set his cup down. "It is not going to happen," he said gently. "Your mom and I are not getting back together." Her face closed down fast like a door slamming in a gust of wind. "You did not even try," she said. "We did try," he said. "We tried for years, before you were born and after. We tried in all the ways we knew how. Living together again would not make us into people we are not. It would just make 3 of us unhappy in the same house." Tears gathered in her eyes, glossing her lashes. "But if you both love me," she said, voice shaking, "and you are in the same place, why is that not enough?" "Because loving you is not the same as being in love with each other," he said. "We are very good at the first thing. We are not good at the second. We make each other smaller instead of bigger when we are married. That is not what I want you to think marriage looks like." She sniffed hard. "So, Mom was wrong when she said maybe you could try again," she said. "She was not wrong to wonder," he said. "People are allowed to wonder, but after wondering we have to be honest. I was not honest with you right away. That is on me." He watched her twist the corner of the napkin between her fingers. "Mia," he said, "I need you to hear this part clearly. Your family is not broken because your parents do not live in the same house. It is different from some of your friends' families, but it is not less." She frowned. "It feels less," she said, "like when we have 2 couches and 2 sets of rules and 2 beds. It feels like the puzzle never got put back together right." He let the image sit. "I know it feels that way sometimes," he said. "What I can promise you is that you have 2 parents who love you and are going to be in the same city working together. That is a kind of puzzle too." She stared at the table. "You said this was also about Riley?" she said after a moment. He nodded. His heart beat a little harder. "It is," he said. "I need to tell you something about her." She looked up, eyes red, expression cautious. "I love Riley," he said. "Not just as a friend. The way grown-ups love each other when they want to be together." The words sat between them. He watched them land. "Like boyfriend and girlfriend," Mia said slowly. "Yes," he said, "like that." She bit her lip. Her eyes flicked to the empty chair next to him, as if she could see Riley sitting there. "Since when?" she asked. "Since somewhere between the first cupcake and the 20th diorama," he said. "I did not realize it at first. Or I did, and I was afraid to say it. But it is true." Mia took this in. He saw the conflict moving across her face, the loyalty lines being redrawn. "Does Mom know?" she asked. "She knows I care about someone," he said. "We are going to talk more when she gets here. She has a right to know the details, and so do you. That is why we are having this conversation now, not after you walk in on something and have to guess. Mia pushed her cereal bowl away. The milk had gone pale and lukewarm. I still wish you and Mom could be together, she said. I still think about it when I go to sleep. He nodded. You are allowed to wish that, he said. You are allowed to feel sad that it is not going to happen. That sadness does not have to go away just because you understand why. She studied the pattern in the wood grain of the table. But I also like Riley, she said quietly. She knows how to draw dragons. You laugh more when she is around. You do not get the tired eyes as much. He swallowed. I do feel lighter with her, he said, in a way that does not take anything away from what I feel for Mom. It is just a different kind of love. Mia twisted the napkin until it tore. Can she still come to the cafe? She asked. If she is your girlfriend. If she wants to, he said, if you are okay with it. She thought for a few seconds. I might be mad sometimes, she said, because you are not doing the movie in my head, but I do not want her to go away. He reached across the table and took her hand, napkin shreds and all. That is an honest answer, he said. I can work with honest. She squeezed his fingers. Do not mess it up, she said. I am trying very hard not to, he said. Summer rolled in with heavier air and the first real heat waves. Boston's sidewalks shimmered. The common turned properly green. Tourists arrived in packs. In August, Jenna moved back. The official logistics happened in a coffee shop that was not Beacon Street Cafe 1 with neutral walls and a hum that belonged to people who did not know any of them. Ethan and Jenna sat across from each other with calendars and notepads. Jenna's hair was shorter than when she left a sharp bob that suited her. A splash of paint on her knuckle refused to wash off. She talked about exhibition deadlines while they worked out alternating weekends. So, she said at one point pen poised, is this about as amicable as co-parenting meetings get? We are showing off, he said. We are, she agreed. They set a schedule that gave Mia regular time with each of them with space for flexibility. Jenna would have her every other weekend and one weeknight dinner. Holidays would be shared. Birthdays would be a question of what Mia wanted instead of what looked balanced on paper. And I will be close by, Jenna said, so even the off days do not have to feel far. He nodded. That matters, he said. The first time Jenna came to pick Mia up at his apartment, the place smelled like popcorn and the faint tang of acrylic paint. Mia's backpack lay half-zipped on the couch, a stuffed turtle's head poking out. Riley was there. She and Mia had been hunched over the coffee table working on a cardboard spaceship. Glitter clung to Riley's fingers and the front of her t-shirt. When the knock came, Mia leaped up. Mom, she yelled, racing down the hall. Ethan wiped his hands on a dish towel and followed. Riley stood in the living room doorway, not sure if she should come with him or stay. She chose to stay, hands curling around the back of a chair. Jenna stepped into the hallway, a gust of outside heat following her. She dropped to her knees to hug. Mia murmured something into her hair that made the girl giggle. Then she stood and looked past Ethan into the living room. Her gaze found Riley. It was a moment that could have held a lot of drama. It did not. It held a quick assessment and something like recognition. So you are Riley, Jenna said. Her tone was not icy, not overly warm, simply open. I am, Riley said. Her voice felt like it was coming from somewhere slightly outside her body. She wiped her glittery fingers on a paper towel and stepped forward. They stood a few feet apart, Mia between them, looking up as if introducing two worlds. I have heard a lot about you, Jenna said. Dragons, dioramas, cupcakes. I hope some of it was flattering, Riley said. Most of it, Jenna said. She shifted her bag on her shoulder, then met Riley's eyes more directly. I want you to know, Jenna said, that I am not here to undo whatever good you have been for them. I thought I wanted to try again with Ethan. That was before I saw him with you, before I really listened to myself. I was lonely in Seattle. I missed Mia. I confused wanting to be a better mom with wanting to be a wife again. They are not the same thing. Riley exhaled a breath she had not realized she had been holding. I never wanted to be in the way, she said, of anything, especially not of Mia having you. You are not in the way, Jenna said. You are in the picture. I can see that. She glanced back at Ethan, who was leaning in the doorway watching them with a kind of held breath of his own. He looks lighter, Jenna said quietly, almost to herself. He did not look like that with me at the end. He talks about you with a lot of respect, Riley said. Every time he reminds me you are Mia's mom, there is this look like he is holding something fragile. Jenna's mouth twitched. He was always better with fragile things than I was, she said. Mia tugged Riley's hand. Mom says we have to go if we want to make it to the museum, she said. Can you come next time? Maybe, Riley said, if it is okay with your mom and dad. Jenna nodded. It would be good for her to see us all in the same room without anyone flinching, she said. We can work up to that. She turned to Riley fully. Take care of them when they are with you, she said. Both of them. And let me take care of her when she is with me. I can do that, Riley said. I want to do that. Mia hugged Riley around the middle, then bounced to the door, backpack thumping against her back. I will send pictures, she said. You better, Ethan said. The door closed behind them. The apartment felt oddly quiet. Ethan turned to find Riley still standing in the center of the room, hands loose at her sides, expression dazed but relieved. How are you feeling? He asked. Like I just passed an exam I did not study for, she said. He stepped closer. You did fine, he said. She nodded. I like her, she said. That is annoying. He laughed. She grows on you, he said. Over the next few months, the edges of the new arrangement softened. There were small, awkward moments. Who sat where at the school open house? Whose house hosted the first sleepover? Who picked Mia up from a birthday party when both cars arrived at the same time? They worked through them with quiet conversations in parking lots and quick texts. Mia adjusted in kid time faster on some days, slower on others. She came home from Jenna's with stories about museum storage rooms and a new friend named Sophie who fixed old paintings for a living. She came back from Riley's with glitter in her hair and comics in her backpack. One evening in early fall, Ethan stood at the back of the school gym, watching Mia's first grade class perform a shaky version of a song about seasons. Riley stood on his right, leaning on her crutch. Jenna stood on his left, her camera up recording far too much footage. When Mia waved from the stage, she did not wave at one spot. She waved at the whole row. Ethan glanced to the side. Riley and Jenna both waved back, each in their own way. For the first time, he did not feel like he was balancing on a wire between past and present. He felt like he was standing on a platform that might actually hold. On a Saturday morning, almost a year after the first cupcake, Beacon Street Cafe looked the same and not the same. The sun came in at a slightly different angle. The snow outside had not arrived yet, but the air held that crisp taste that meant it was on its way. Inside, steam from cups blurred the lower edge of the front window. Voices overlapped in easy layers. At the table by the glass, 3 chairs were pulled out and occupied. Mia sat with her back to the room, facing the counter so she could monitor the pastry case. Riley sat across from her, scarf unwound and looped over the back of her chair. Ethan was on Riley's left, nearer to the aisle, fingers wrapped around his coffee, like it was the only way to keep his hands busy. There was no empty chair tucked in at the edge of their table anymore. Mia jittered with a kind of contained excitement that did not match a regular Saturday. Her sneakers tapped, then stopped. Her fingers tapped, then stopped. She kept catching Ethan's eye and then pretending she had not. Are we getting the big cinnamon roll or the smaller, more reasonable cinnamon roll? She asked. The smaller one is not reasonable, Riley said. It is just smaller. Big one it is, Mia said. Ethan smiled, but his stomach felt like it was full of bees. In his pocket, the outline of a small velvet box pressed against his leg. Riley watched him over the top of her mug. You all right? She asked. You are chewing that coffee. Long week, he said. She did not look convinced. I saw your email about the glue gun incident, she said. I thought the eyebrows grew back. They did, he said. Mostly. The bell over the door chimed. Someone laughed near the counter. The barista in the red apron, who seemed to be there every weekend, was stacking plates. Mia cleared her throat theatrically. So, she said, trying and failing to sound casual, do you remember your birthday, Riley? Riley blinked. The one that started here, she said. Hard to forget. You did not tell us right away, Mia said. You were just going to sit here and drink boring coffee and be secretly sad. Riley shrugged. I was also planning to eat a pastry, she said. And then, Mia went on, ignoring the comment, we sang. And you cried. And Dad bought a cupcake with a candle that hurt his wallet. Ethan snorted. It was $3, he said. For a cupcake, Mia said, horrified, as if this were new information. Riley smiled, the memory warm in her eyes. It was a good cupcake, she said. Worth at least $2.50. Mia shot a quick look at Ethan, then leaned back in her chair. Okay, she said. I am going to go see if they have any lemon bars, even though I know they do because I checked when we came in. She slid off her seat and headed for the display case, leaving her hot chocolate behind. Riley watched her go, then turned back to Ethan. What is going on? She asked. She has weird energy. You have weird energy. Did I forget some important date? No, he said. His voice came out a little rough. He cleared it. You did not forget anything. He wiped his palms on his jeans under the table. The air in the cafe felt thicker suddenly, like soup. He stood up. Riley frowned. "Now you are making me nervous," she said. He moved his chair back just enough to give himself room. His heart thudded in his ears. The noise in the cafe dipped in his perception as if someone had turned down the volume. He went down on one knee beside the table. The change in height made the world tilt. From this angle, he could see the ring of old coffee on the wood, the scuff marks on the legs of the chairs, the way light fell in a narrow band across Riley's wrist. Her eyes went wide. "Ethan," she said, "what are you doing?" Every head in their corner of the cafe seemed to turn in their direction. The barista stopped mid-wipe of the counter. A couple at the next table held very still. Ethan looked up at Riley. "Do you remember," he said, "the first time you asked if you could share our table?" Her face shifted. The confusion made room for something else. "You walked in here with that crutch and that backpack," he said. "You stood in the middle of this room, and I watched you get turned away twice. Then you came over to this table and asked a question that sounded small. It was not small." He glanced at the empty space in front of her, the spot where a cupcake had once sat. "You thought you were asking for a chair," he said. "You were asking if we had room in our lives, and we were too slow to understand how big that was." Riley's hands had flown to her mouth. Her eyes shone. The candle scent from the table in the corner drifted past them, vanilla and smoke. "In the months since," he said, "you have sat at every table that matters to me. This one, my kitchen table, that loner desk in the art room when you bring Mia's forgotten lunch. You have turned Saturdays into more than a tradition. You have turned them into a life." Mia appeared at his shoulder lemon bar in one hand, the small velvet box in the other. She was practically vibrating. "Can I give it to her now?" she whispered. "Not yet," he whispered back. He looked up at Riley again. "You filled a chair that had been empty for a long time," he said. "You made it impossible to picture this table without you. So," he nodded at Mia. "Now," he said. Mia thrust the box onto the table and flipped it open with a flourish that lacked any subtlety. Inside, a simple ring sat in black velvet, a small diamond catching the light from the window and scattering it in thin, bright lines. The cafe had gone very quiet. "Riley Hart," Ethan set his throat tight, "will you marry us?" The word hung there, us. Riley's fingers trembled where they touched her lips. A tear slid over her knuckles. "Not just me," he said. "Us. Me and this girl who thinks glitter is a food group. We are a package deal. You know that. You have been loving us both for a while now. We would like to make it official." Mia leaned in. "Please say yes," she whispered, not quietly at all. "I already told my teacher." Riley let out a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite a sob. She dropped her hands from her face. "Yes," she said. The word was thin at first, then steadier. "Yes, of course, yes." The cafe exhaled with her. Applause broke out at the tables around them. Someone at the back whistled. The barista clapped the dish towel against the counter, grinning. Ethan stood his knees, reminding him he was not 20. His hands shook a little as he took the ring from the box. "Give me your hand," he said. She did. Her fingers were cold and damp. He slid the ring onto her left hand. It fit like they had measured for it, even though he had guessed. Mia slammed her lemon bar onto the table and wrapped both arms around them in a hug that almost knocked them off balance. "We are getting married in a cafe," she said into Riley's sweater. "We are getting engaged in a cafe," Ethan said. "The married part will take slightly more paperwork." The barista in the red apron came over with a small plate. On it sat a cupcake, chocolate with vanilla frosting. A single candle burned in the center. "Seemed appropriate," she said. Mia did not need prompting. "Happy engagement to you," she started, and a few people joined in, stumbling over the words, turning the melody a little crooked. It did not matter. Riley closed her eyes, laughed into the song, and let Ethan's hand anchor her while she made another wish she did not say out loud. 6 months later, the cafe doors stayed locked to the public on a bright Saturday morning. A handwritten sign in the window read, "Closed for a private event. See you this afternoon." Inside, white flowers sat in jars on the tables. Strings of small lights traced the tops of the windows and the beams on the ceiling. The smell of coffee mingled with something sweeter, chocolate and frosting. The sound system in the corner played quietly a playlist Mia had insisted on helping with. The table by the glass where it had all started held no cups this time. It held a short row of candles and a small arrangement of flowers. 2 chairs stood behind it. One was for Ethan, one for Riley. The owner of the cafe, a woman with laugh lines around her eyes and a habit of sliding extra cookies onto kids' plates, stood at the end of the aisle holding a small notebook. She had agreed to get ordained online when Mia asked her. Guests sat on chairs pulled from the rest of the space. Aunt Lila, in a dress that did not quite fit right, dabbing her eyes already. Ethan's sister, with her husband, and their toddler who clutched a stuffed turtle and regarded everyone suspiciously. A couple of Ethan's colleagues. The barista in her usual red apron off duty, but unwilling to miss it. Jenna sat in the front row with Sophie, their shoulders touching. Mia bounced between them in a pale green dress clutching a basket of flower petals. When the music shifted, everyone turned. Riley came down the narrow aisle on Aunt Lila's arm. Her dress was simple knee-length white, with a hint of lace at the hem. Her metal leg showed bare and unhidden. She had insisted on that. Her eyes found Ethan's and stayed there. The nervousness in his spine eased. They stood in front of the table, hands almost touching. The cafe owner smiled. "We are here," she said, "in a place that already knows this family very well." There were a few laughs at that. Ethan took his vows from the notebook, but most of them he did not need to read. "Riley," he said, "you walked into this cafe looking for a seat and found us. You turned my Saturday ritual into something that feels like a home. You showed me that family can start on an ordinary morning with black coffee and too much whipped cream." He swallowed. "I promise to keep this table open for you," he said, "to make space for your grief when it shows up uninvited, to laugh with you when Mia glues googly eyes on everything we own, to remember that we got here because you were brave enough to ask for a chair." Riley's voice shook at first when it was her turn. "Ethan," she said, "I came here on the worst birthday I had ever had, hoping to feel close to people who were gone. Instead, you and Mia made me feel like I was not gone too." She looked at Mia, who grinned at her through a veil of petals. "You have both let me sit with you," she said, "at this table, at your kitchen table, on that bench by the swings. You have made room for my ghosts and my jokes and my lists. I promise to keep choosing this table, to keep showing up on Saturdays, to love both of you in all the ordinary and strange ways that come with being a family." They exchanged rings while the morning light slid across the floor and climbed up their shoes. "By the power vested in me by the internet and this being my cafe," the owner said, "I now pronounce you married." Mia whooped before anyone else could clap. "You can kiss now," she informed them. They did. The room blurred around them, voices blending into a soft roar of happiness. The window reflected it all, back a hazy double image of people standing and clapping. Later, they cut a small cake on the same spot where the first cupcake had sat, chocolate with vanilla frosting. Mia insisted on putting a single candle on top. "You have to make a wish," she said. "It is a rule." Riley looked at Ethan. He squeezed her hand. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them and blew. Wax pooled at the base of the wick. Smoke curled up thin and gray, joining the steam from the coffee cups arranged around the table. As the small reception thinned out and chairs scraped on the floor and people hugged goodbye, Ethan and Riley and Mia ended up back at their table by the window. 3 chairs, 3 cups. The city on the other side of the glass. Outside, people walked dogs and pushed strollers and checked their phones. Inside, the reflection in the window showed a man, a woman, and a girl leaning together over the crumbs of cake, their heads close enough that in the glass they almost looked like one shape. Mia licked frosting off her finger. "Best Saturday," she said. Riley rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. "It started with a table," she said. He looked at the 3 cups, the 3 chairs the candles burned low. "It started with you," he said. The sun shifted a little higher. The light moved across their faces. They stayed where they were on their side of the glass in the cafe that knew their story well. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.